It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. Before we get into this episode, if you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe, leave us a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening to this on. This will help us reach more people and also move up in the rankings. So thank you in advance for supporting us in that way. If you want to be part of the BRRRR real estate investing community, you can get started for just $1 for your first week. You can go to blackrealestatedialogue.com for all information or click the link in the show notes. Very excited about this episode today. Here with me, I have Mark Higgins out of Miami, Florida. Mark, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So start off, let us know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so I've been in Miami for the past 15 years, but I grew up as a military brat. And I've been in the medical world for the past 15 years as well. So I'm a healthcare consultant for BD. I basically deal with hospitals all day and teach them how to lower their infection rate. And I'm also a long distance real estate investor.
Awesome. So talk to us about what it was that got you to a point where you're like, you know what, real estate is one of the things I'm going to use to build my wealth and to build income for the future.
Yeah, so it started actually last year or a year and a half during quarantine. Everyone had time on their hands and I was heavy into the stock market. So much to the point where I started day trading because we were all at home. So I started day trading. And I realized I can't continue to do this while I have a family. My daughter was 1 years old, and I'm staring at my phone from 9:30 until 4:30. And then after the bell rings, I'm studying charts and companies. And I was just like, I can't continue to function this way. And so during that time, I got introduced to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which changed my thought process on just how I was investing, right? And so what makes that book so interesting is that there's a million books that tell you what to do, how to make millions, how to have the right mindset, et cetera. But that dichotomy that happens in that book, the binary decision of I can either choose, I have a choice. I can choose to be like his biological father, or I could choose to be like his friend's father. And so that really kind of introduced my brain into real estate. And I started going down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos during that time. And so I started learning about the tax benefits and the long distance investing and just having that, freeing up a lot of time to spend with my child. And so just like most investors that start into it, they're overwhelmed. I got into it, I opened up Zillow and I was just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. There's a million homes, there's a million houses. I have no clue what I'm doing. There's no direction here, et cetera. And so I actually Googled all-inclusive real estate, something like that. And I came across a company called Roofstock. And so Roofstock, what they did was is an extraordinary platform, but they looked at the stock market and said, let's replicate that and do it for real estate. And so they choose like 20 cities across the nation, buying single family homes. And so where long distance real estate investors can literally sit at the home or sit at the comfort of their home behind their computer and invest in real estate with the click of a button. So that was my introduction, long-winded introduction into how I got into real estate.
Got you. Can you talk to us more about why you decided to go with Roofstock? I've heard of Roofstock. Some people probably have. This is the first time we've had a guest, to my knowledge, who started investing with Roofstock. So could you talk about, I guess, what it was about their model that made you feel comfortable and like, you know what, I'm starting out with this. This is where this is the direction that I want to go in.
Yeah. So a few things. One, when I decided to make that switch from investment and go into real estate and really build wealth for my family, really free up a lot of time, Roofstock provides a point A to point Z process. right? So when you go into real estate as a solo person, you got to call the insurance person. You got to see if you can find a property manager. You can find a real estate agent, find a home, find a contractor, there's so many different pieces on that chessboard that you need to find as an individual. What Roofstock does is they provide a liaison that'll literally walk you through the steps of that process. And so you don't ever feel alone, right? And so they do all of the dirty work for you. They assess the property. They provide in-depth knowledge about the property, photos for the property. For the most part, they do have a tenant in that property because they want investors to really be on their platform. They provide a super robust system in the way that you can break down the numbers for that property. So from that standpoint, I felt comfortable with the information that they were providing, right? They also provide webinars, et cetera. So the more and more you get into it, you start, shedding some of that fear that you may have. And so what made me ultimately purchase a property on Roofstock was I'm going through the process. And one of the things that I realized, like, listen, even if I buy a property tomorrow, I don't know what I'm really looking at. So the fact that I have someone else's eyes on it, right? And I have a company's eye, a third party eye on it, because I was going through Wells Fargo. So, your conventional 20% down. So they're going to do their appraisal, right? So that's one set of eyes. Roofstock has also had their set of eyes on that property. So it led me to have enough confidence to move forward. It was a lot. It took several months before I decided to pull the trigger. But when I did pull that trigger, the next day it's kind of like, all right, it's not the world didn't collapse. I'm good. Let's keep moving. So that's how I bought my first property.
Got you. And talk to us about that particular deal. How did you know that it met your criteria and that it was the one, so to speak? Talk to us about that? Because a lot of times, man, like, it can be very daunting, very intimidating as a first-time investor,
Right.
let alone long distance, which we haven't even discussed yet. I believe you invest in St. Louis, you live in Miami, so you're not even there. So talk to us about like that process and what it was like for that first property.
Yeah, so to move forward within Roofstock, I had to create metrics, right? Because even within Roofstock, even though it filtered out what Zillow may offer from a nationwide perspective, and it filtered it to 20 cities, that's still 20 cities I need to filter out. And so I started with 3 different metrics. One was the 1% rule, right? So if the property is 100,000, my rent needs to be 1,000. So whatever the property value is, it needs to be 1% of that in the rent. And so I set it at, okay, 100,000 for a property, right? Started filtering out. 1% rule, started filtering out. I wanted 3% appreciation on the properties. So at minimum, this area will give me a 3% appreciation. And then for whatever reason, on Roofstock, it just kept giving me a lot of St. Louis properties. And then I started seeing their brick homes, and I was like, these numbers make sense. These houses look amazing. Let me start diving into this real estate market, into this specific area. And that's how I ended up in St. Louis. And what's interesting is, to this day, I've never been to St. Louis.
Amazing, man. That's good. And so that was during the pandemic that you purchased that first property, right?
Correct. So I purchased the first property, conventional, like I said, 20% down. So, $20,000 down on that property. Started to build some more confidence. Like a month later, purchased another one off of Roofstock. So that was my second home. Got more confidence, purchased 2 more, right, off of Roofstock. So that was 4 within like 6 months.
Wow.
So then I started looking at it. Okay, well, I did this. It's not as bad as it seems. One of the great aspects about being a long distance real estate investor is if you have a great property manager, most of the stuff that you need to do, they're going to take care of it. So it's not a total hands-off. You're still a business owner, but for the most part, you have someone managing your business that you're essentially paying 6, 8, 10% a month of your rent. What other business do you know like that? You know, and you get to write off basically what you're paying them. So it's a win-win. And so that's what happened my first year into the real estate game.
Man, so you purchased 4 properties in the span of a few months. What did that feel like after getting? What did that feel like? I guess because I'm sure you may not have expected to grow so quickly in less than 12 months, especially in the middle of a global pandemic.
Right. So the first one I purchased, I started reading the book, The Color of Law. And so The Color of Law talks about the history of America and the government policies that were put in place to strategically prevent the wealth of Black people. Obviously, we all know about redlining. And that book kind of really changed, like really hyper-focused my investment strategy and wanting to purchase more and more homes, right? So I use the metaphor, they redlined us, but I'm gonna use that red line and jump rope with it.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, I've read some parts of that book, and yeah, I mean, it's just, it could evoke a lot of emotions, right? It can make you upset, learn about that stuff, which is justified. It can make you feel a certain way, but I think, you know, I would love for our people to use that as motivation. You know, what they took from us, like, we have the knowledge, we have platforms such as these, we have people like you who are doing it, right? Who are, you know, taking it back. I mean, we probably never get back what we're owed, but we have an opportunity now to, you know, invest in communities and do things that we couldn't really do years ago. So,
well, yeah, and to your point, I think that conversation needs to expand. So I don't know how it was for you growing up, but for me, that conversation didn't happen.
Didn't happen either.
It wasn't like something that was taboo. It was just something that was just unknown. And so you have, you know, parents through these generations that just never had that discussion about investing in I had no clue about real estate, none going into it. Knew about stocks, you know, stocks are everywhere, just no clue about it. No one in my family ever spoke about it. And so I think, to your point, that conversation needs to happen more and more, especially when people realize the power of real estate and the power of leverage.
Absolutely. So I want your opinion on something. So you mentioned your strategy, you know, going conventional, so on and so forth. There are a lot of people who don't want to invest that way and want to buy cash, or, you know, want to do the BRRRR strategy, all these things. Can you talk to us about why you chose this particular strategy and why it works for you?
Well, I'm no longer doing that strategy, but I used that strategy initially because it was the easiest and it was a way for me to just get started, right? So my focal point initially was, let me just get started. It's long distance. This is the easiest path. Roofstock will literally walk me through the step process. I don't have to do anything. There's a liaison. As soon as I close, they're sending out emails to property managers. Here's 3 options, 3 property managers. They'll contact you. You decide which one you want. Here's an insurance company. Here's a title company. And they literally just hold your hand throughout the process. And so for me, that was great for an initial starter, right? Or initial investor. I had the liquid in order to do that. Like you said, not many people have that, but for me, it was a great initial starting point. I now focus on the BRRRR strategy, which is, it's a lot harder than people people make it seem.
Got you. So you got those first 4 through Roofstock, and then did you start to acquire more and start implementing the BRRRR strategy? What I guess, how did what happened from there after getting those first 4 in the first few months?
So after the first 4, my thing was like, all right, like this is gonna take. My strategy was I wanted to get 100 homes within 8 years, and I was going to continue to do it the conventional way, by reinvesting the income from those first 4 while saving up money. And so I was going to purchase 3 to 4 homes, 5 homes a year to get to that 100. It was going to take 100 homes. No, $100,000 in income. That was the goal. And so the strategy was initially to do that. Like, I'm just going to take it this conventional route. And I realized, like, I can't scale fast enough. And I'm a super aggressive investor. So I wanted to get into the BRRRR strategy. And a lot of people get into the BRRRR strategy and use hard money. Living in South Florida during this pandemic has been a blessing for a lot of South Floridians, because appreciation in home value has gone through the roof. And so dealing with hard money, you have to pay, certain interest rates, and there's just a lot of stuff that comes along with it. I have been doing the BRRRR strategy with the HELOC. And so I essentially taken out.
Can you explain, like, for those who may not know, like, what a HELOC is?
Yeah, so we spoke about this earlier, just getting started in real estate, just buy a property. And so you'll start to see the value of that one property, not just as in the home buyer and the tax benefits, but also equity. And so what a HELOC is a home equity line of credit, right? So whatever your home value is, that magical number that someone has made up, versus how much you own that property, that's the equity that you have. And so you can take that equity and use it however you want. The problem is most people use that equity and buy cars or homes or something that, it's not cost effective, and it's more of a liability than it is an asset. So and why I love the HELOC is it provides dead money that's just sitting there doing nothing. I'm putting it to work at a 3% interest rate. All right, like where else can you buy, or where else can you get a credit card essentially for 3% for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 depending on the equity? Where else can you get that at? So the HELOC is a great investment tool. I love it. I don't have to deal with hard money lenders. I don't have to run anything by them. I do everything myself, and I get that money right back once I go cash out.
Got it. So you use the HELOC in order to start implementing the BRRRR strategy?
Yeah. So what I do with the HELOC, once I got the HELOC, is buy a property, fix it up. So I use the HELOC to buy the property and to fix it up, and then rehab or cash out after that, get all my money back. The last one I just did, I made, I was all in 97. It appraised for 125, so I got that $100,000 right back, paid off the HELOC, and then moved on to the next one, which I just closed last week. Wow. So essentially, that interest that I'm paying is like $200 a month. But if you do the BRRRR strategy right, you'll make that and some. Like I said, I paid 97. I got a 97 all in. No, it was. I bought it for 75, and I paid 18,000 for the rehab. So 93. Got the appraised for 125. Got 80% of that, so I got 100,000 back. So essentially made 7,000 on the deal. Wow. But after paying fees and everything else, closing costs, etc.
Wow.
So essentially bought a property for nothing and made money on it by using the power of the HELOC. Love it.
What was it like on that first one? Because previously you pretty much buying things that are already running, properties that are already rented out and so forth. What was it like transitioning and getting into the BRRRR strategy and contractors and just a lot more stuff, a lot more variables? Talk to us about what that was like.
Man, listen.
I'm gonna walk you through the BRRRR process and the steps, right? So the first one is to buy. All right, so I'm already in St. Louis. How do I buy a property off, that needs work at the price that I need it? So most people look at a property and try to find the ARV. Say the ARV is 100, they want to buy a property for 50, 60,000, there has to be enough room in there for it to make sense. So it's like, all right, well, where do I find the properties at? So start looking at on Zillow and Redfin and all those websites. Start looking at properties, and then if you find a property like, oh, these numbers work, let me look at it. Not realizing there's a realtor that's involved, and they're strategically pricing it low to start a bidding war. That doesn't work for me because I'm not living in the property. Someone who lives in a property obviously can offer more than I want to offer because I have certain criteria and numbers I need to hit. It's like, damn, that doesn't work. Okay, let me find a wholesaler. So I actually found a wholesaler and started doing a mastermind group with Sam out of St. Louis. Sam does a bunch of stuff on the internet, but found a wholesaler with him. This is, mind you, this is after several months of trying to do this on my own. I would find a property, say I did find a property prior to finding a wholesaler, then I would have to send out a contractor to go see that property, right? Because I'm not there. I need them to go buy the property and give me the numbers. Now here's one of the other hardest parts of being a distant investor trying to BRRRR. What is, if a property hits the market, you have other people seeing that same property. And if you have a contractor, that contractor may go today, they may go 2 or 3 days, they may go in 4 days. And then if they go, you may never hear from them. They may send you a quote and it might take a week to get that quote. The house is gone, boom, all right? But that contractor, you took up a lot of his or her time. That contractor may or may not even return your calls after that. And you're a long distant investor, like, damn, I just lost a contractor. So I went to one contractor, same thing happened. He went by another house that I saw, a new contractor sent me the numbers and then just disappeared. So it's like, this is taking a lot of time and effort because there's so many pieces. I play chess. Do you play chess? There's so many.
Not since I was a kid.
There's so many moving pieces on this board that have different strategies and different movements. And so finally got with a wholesaler. The great thing about a wholesaler is a wholesaler wants to move that property as quickly as possible. And they understand what the investor's end game is. And so they're more willing, they're more so what you're looking for. And as far as properties to do the BRRRR strategy. So that was one on the B, the first B, which is buy. Got with a wholesaler brought me the property. Great. Second step in that BRRRR strategy is to rehab. Like I said, finding these contractors and finding one that you can trust. Remember, I'm long distance. So I don't know any of these contractors. I've never seen them, had a conversation with them. And so what I decided to do with this contractor, the contractor company is Epic with a K. I love them. I work with Patrick and Ashley. They're awesome. But what I did with this is I realized, all right, I can't just send the contractor out to every property that I think is interesting because it's not cost effective for them. After a few of these, it's kind of like, you're not going to continue to send me all around town. So I had to tighten my game up as far as what I'm looking at. So the wholesaler brought me this property. They can run the ARV. That was another hiccup. This is a long-winded conversation, by the way. But that's another hiccup that they don't tell you is, say you find a property, a wholesaler brings you a property. How do you know what the active repair value is, the ARV? You're not a realtor. You don't have, especially in that state or that city, you're not a realtor there. So how are you going to run comps for that property in order to see what the ARV is going to be? So it's another hiccup. So now I'm just like, damn, how am I going to run comps? So on this one, luckily, the wholesaler was able to run comps. And most wholesalers can run comps because they have, connections with realtors, or they have their real estate license. But I signed up with batch leads. I don't know if you ever have heard of batch leads. Batch leads allows me to run comps everywhere across the nation. So I don't have to rely on a real estate and what information they're providing. But with that first property, it was a duplex. They ran the comps. I ran the comps. Comps came out at 125, bought it for 75. It's like, all right, great. Find this contractor. So the rehab, he went and looked at the property. Mind you, the wholesaler was like, oh, quick, some quick touch-ups, you're good. Contractor went to the property, said, no, this needs a new roof. This is done. And a new kitchen, new bathroom. Great. Got under contract. The contractor started. Now this is the scariest moment of the process for me and any of my real estate investing partners. Mm-hmm. So the contractor wanted 50% down initially. I was like, damn, I don't know you.
Right.
You know, like to this day, I've never seen my contractor. And I kind of want to keep it that way until I reach like my 100 unit goal. But I was like, damn, like, I don't know this person, right? I don't know this company. What if they just take my money and run? So we work things out. This is how we're going to pay on tier levels, which I highly recommend. You accomplish this, I'll give you this. You do the roof, I'll give you this. You finish the kitchen, I'll give you this. And so it worked out for both of us. And so that was the rehab aspect. So mind you, say it's June 1st. I bought the property on June 1st. Because I'm paying cash, there was no delay in the closing. I closed within like two or 3 weeks, right? So now we're like on June 20th, just for example. Paid the contractor. Contractor came in, busted out the roof in the kitchen and the bathroom in a week. So we're looking at like July 10th, for example. So all in, we're looking at 6 weeks. Boom. So the buy, rehab. There was already a tenant in the first floor. I talked to our property manager. Let's put a tenant in there. Now you have to go to the rehab process. Before doing this, I contacted several banks. Hey, this is what I'm doing. Will you refi at 80%? Some of them will do 75%. Some of them will do 80%. Here's the kicker. Most of the banks have a 6-month seasoning period. So basically, if I bought that property on January 1st, no matter what happens, they're not going to refi until June because they need to see that I've held that property for 6 months and it's making money. First State Bank of St. Charles they don't have that rule for me. So those smaller banks they'll work with you. And they said, listen, as soon as you're done, you're good. You can refi as soon as you want. I was like, awesome. So again, 6 weeks in, I'm done. I go to them, they send an appraiser out, appraisers. I have someone meet the appraiser and I put together this package so it would appraise at what I wanted to appraise. So I included comps, I included what I did to the property. So all the rehab costs, I included into this little package and gave it to the appraiser. I'm not sure how much the appraiser looked at it, but I wanted to make sure the appraiser knew you just don't look at the property. Here's all the details of the property. Here's the comps, and here's what it should appraise at. Appraisal came back at 125. Like I said, within 6 weeks, it was all done.
Wow. What was it like when you finally got over that hurdle and the property sold? Yeah, well, talk to us about that feeling.
That was an exciting moment for me because I know, like, I've done a lot of hard things in my life and trying to BRRRR was one of the hardest things I've ever tried to do. And I've always said to myself, like, listen, if someone else can do it, I can do it. But there's just so many moving parts and you have to have a great team behind you. You have to have an amazing contractor. You have to have a great property management group. I used Frontier Property Management Group in St. Louis. And the wholesale company, faster deals. So you had to have like an amazing team around you in order to make that thing work. Even if you're there, you still need an amazing team because even if you're there with a contractor, the contractor can still blow you off, still take your money and leave, whatever. So trying to find amazing people is the hardest part to make that work. You got to find a bank, a contractor, wholesaler, and a property manager to have like a strong team in place. So all these chess pieces move so you can go ahead and checkmate. So when everything was completed, I was like, that was amazing. Now it's like, now I have everything in place, move on. Like as soon as I close, I got with a real estate agent. Her name is Lindette. She's awesome. But she puts me on her MLS for multifamilies. As soon as I see a property, hey, let's put this one under contract. Boom. It's not a wholesaler, but there still are some properties, because you're coming in with cash as a HELOC, you can make different investment strategies that essentially, people are looking quickly to sell are more likely to go with the cash because they don't have to deal with appraisals and all that other stuff. And, so yeah, it was an amazing feeling.
Definitely. Amazing, man. And then are the other units single or multi-family?
So the first 4, they're single. Mm-hmm. Now I'm doing multifamily, which allows me to scale quicker. Mm-hmm. And so the thing that I look at now is this one roof. It's just now it's more doors.
Yeah.
So my thing is definitely being aggressive in getting, and it's more money, yeah. Right? So these are now bringing in my single family homes, cash flow between 2 and 250, where these are cash flowing around 400.
Wow.
400, yeah, 400.
That's pretty good. So you're at 6 doors now in about a year.
I'm at 8. So I'm at 8 doors in a year. And so my next one, I'll have this one wrapped up in 3 weeks. My next one, I want to jump up to like a 10 to 20 unit apartment complex. So here's another thing, right? Apartment complexes. I've read the book Crushing It in Apartments, right? And I don't know how it was for you, but I remember in college looking at like these huge buildings and just thinking to myself, like, how does someone own this? You know what I mean? Like, what are the initial steps? I don't even know how someone owns that. Like, I've never been taught that, never knew the steps into owning this huge building. So I'm listening to Crushing It in Apartments. I'm thinking you got to have millions and millions of dollars to buy these apartments. But it's the same BRRRR strategy. It's just a different way of investing, right? So, for example, I've been buying all these homes cash, getting the cash out, essentially for 100. I'm all in 100,000. I can use that same 100,000 on $1 million or 20% down, at 20% down on a $500,000-$600,000 apartment complex. Get those numbers up. Cash out refi for what it's now worth and get that 100,000 back. The process takes a little longer, but I can still use that same 100,000 on a duplex, single family, or even an apartment complex.
Love it. I was about to ask what the future looks like, but you already told us.
I'm like I said, I'm aggressive. I want to hit 100. The future is definitely, matter of fact, Lynette just contacted me tonight, say, hey, I'm gonna send you some apartment complexes because we just closed on that duplex. I want an apartment complex. And I just looked at one, had my contractor go by and look at one. And so what I do now also that I learned with my contractor, like I said, I filter out everything to where it's like, I'm definitely interested in this one. I'm not going to waste his time. I pay him every time he goes and looks at a property for me.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate? Yeah. Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance? You know who it is. The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the number one place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
So one of the things that I also learned dealing with contractors in the past is to make it worth their time as well as mine. And so I don't just have my contractor running around looking at properties as if he has nothing else to do. I filter out, and if I'm like 99% sure this is a property that I definitely want to move forward with, I actually pay him every time he goes by. And I make sure that I don't nickel and dime him as well, because good contractors, good people are hard to find, let alone good contractors. And so Epic Construction, they're just good people. You know what I mean? Like they're just good people. And so he gets it. Also, let me add this to contractors as well, because there's different types of contractors. And I learned this too. There's some contractors that will evaluate a home and what they're going to do to that home, thinking, based off of flips or based off of you moving into that home. When you're investing into a property, you're trying to do as much and as minimal as possible in order for those numbers to make sense. You need a contractor who thinks that way as well. And so some of the first contractors that I had, they were giving me these outrageous quotes, and I don't need to do that. I need to get this property rent ready, not I'm moving in and living in this home for 20 years ready. And so that's another thing. And so this contractor, Patrick, he really, really gets it.
Love it. So we've had multiple guests who live and invest in St. Louis. Shout out to John, shout out to Gabby. I don't think I'm missing anybody else, but you, I believe, are the first guests we've had who invest in St. Louis from long distance, fairly certain. So can you talk about some of the reasons you decided to invest in St. Louis? So you mentioned when you were on Roofstock, there was like 20 cities when you were narrowing down. What was it about St. Louis where you're like, you know what, this is going to be the city. This is where I'm going to start to build.
It was a combination of things, but it was one is the aesthetics of homes. Like to find a brick home for $100,000 in 2021 was like unheard of. And especially like a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom duplex. I mean, they had these beautiful brick buildings in St. Louis. And so the numbers worked out there. The people that I met worked out there. And like I said, I still have never been there, but all the numbers were working for St. Louis. All the properties, the values, the people that I were meeting, everything was just working. And now that I have a team there, I'm all in, because it's super difficult. Like I said, it's extremely difficult to get a great team. And if you have that team, stick with that team, because it's one person leaves that team and it can throw your entire, remember, you're running a business. If you don't have good people running your business and operating your business is not going to succeed at the level that you want.
Love it, man. So with apartment buildings, I know you mentioned you can use a similar strategy, the BRRRR strategy. Could take a little bit longer. Are there any other aspects of the process that will be different with 10, 12 units, or is it more or less the same, just at a larger scale?
No, it's a different process. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's a different process. Anything 4 units and below, your value of your property is based off of the comps. So you're kind of handcuffed on the value of that property. When you're looking at commercial, anything 5 units plus, your value of your property is based off of your NOI, your net operating income, how well you're taking care of that property, right? And so if rent is below market, say it's at 700, market's at 1,000, and you can get the rents up to 1,000 by doing some light rehabs or changing the management or changing the structure in which business is conducted at that specific building, you can raise the value of your property exponentially by just things that you solely control, not comps in that area. So that's the biggest difference in jumping up to apartment complexes. You also need a team in place that can handle those, right? And so make sure to speak to your property manager, your contractor prior, letting them know this is what I'm interested in. Are you able to accommodate that? And so those are some of the biggest things, but it's really just understanding the numbers in apartment complexes and how much value you can bring to that apartment complex to get those numbers up. Because that's ultimately what the bank is going to look at when you try to refi out of that.
Got it. Well, we'll have to have you back on once you start getting those apartments so you can break that down for us.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That should be soon. Next 2 months, next 2 or 3 months. That's the goal.
Definitely. You know, what I keep thinking about is in the beginning of our conversation, you were talking about, you were doing day trading, getting into stocks and things of that nature. And, eventually you realize it's not sustainable, for the lifestyle that you want to live, how you want to be there for and with your family. And you decided to start getting to real estate. And so following that, you found Roofstock, and it seemed like it was off to the races almost overnight. You got those 4 properties pretty quickly, and then switched gears, went into the BRRRR strategy on a duplex, and you're about to get another duplex. And now, how do you feel when you think about that? When you think about just how things change so quickly for you, you found something that you really believed was the great next step for you, and you're coming at it pretty aggressively. By the end of next year, you probably, at this rate, probably have 40, 50 doors.
Yeah, that's the goal. So to your point, the investment strategy prior to that, I was, day trading heavy into stocks, I was doing like 14% into my 401k. Talking to my mom, who's on the brink of retirement, she has a 401k. It's kind of the guessing game with that, right? Like, how do you know how long you're going to live? And so the only way that I could really look at my income and guarantee these are the numbers that I want in retirement and income is with real estate. I can almost guarantee my monthly income by doing certain things. And so to have an investment strategy where I can use the same 250,000, 500,000, money infinity amount of times, you can't do that with stocks. And stocks, you need a lot of liquid in order to make more liquid. With real estate, I can take that same amount with the BRRRR strategy and just keep doing it over and over again until I get the number that I want, essentially buying these properties for $0. And so that's why I'm super excited about this journey. I'm super appreciative of it. And I'm super thankful someone decided to come up with this strategy called equity.
Definitely. Yeah, it's crazy. Home prices seem to be going up all over the country. So it's awesome to know that, you personally were able to be in a position where you were part of that upside. You were part of the upswing of that and able to just recycle those funds and continue to build.
Well, and I need to definitely shout out my wife because she wanted to purchase this home back in 2017. I was like, do we really need, this bigger home or whatever? But the value of just purchasing a home paid off. So it allowed so many other investment strategies just off of this one property. One property can definitely change your life. Appreciation went through the roof. I now have dead money just sitting there. I can put it to work, not buying liabilities, buying assets. And knowing what I'm doing, I can get all that money right back. It's just a great investment tool and a great strategy that I'm enjoying the process.
Amazing. Definitely looking forward to putting this episode out. Is there anything else that you want to share with the people? Anything you want to drive home as we come to a close?
Absolutely. Initially, I just want people to have the conversation about real estate. just have, like, even if you never purchased real estate, even if you never owned a home, just think about it. I recently did a presentation for our African-American group within BD, Becton Dickinson. And one of the things that I just did a presentation on the wealth gap. And so one of the interesting figures that came up in my my due diligence was essentially our Black home purchasing essentially has not changed since 1960. We were at like 40% then, we're at like 40% now. Like, we literally have not changed our investment strategy for that many years. We're still not purchasing homes, but our rent has, I think, like 60, 70% of Black people rent homes. And so just having that conversation is just a change of mind. Like, just one property could just change my outlook on life, my goals in life. It just allows us, put it this way, the government wants you to buy properties. They do everything within their power to make all these tax incentives for you to buy property. So you not only have the value of wealth on your side, you now have the government on your side as well.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for taking the time to share your story of inspiration. You know, I definitely believe it's relatable, and there's a lot of things within this episode that people will learn. You know, think about the countless number of people who have equity in their home and they didn't realize they could do anything with it. That could be the exactly. One gem they get from this, and they're off to the races, among other gems that were in the episode. So really appreciate you taking the time to get on the show tonight.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Definitely, definitely. And thank you everyone so much for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe, leave us a rating and review. It'll help us spread this message to as many people as possible. Also, if you want to join the BRRR Real Estate Investing community, you can do so for $1 for your first week. Check out the content, see if it's a good fit. You can cancel anytime, but I think you'll stick around. If you're interested, go to blackrealestatedialogue.com or go to the link in the show notes. Thank you all so much. I look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Hi everyone, Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.